When I was younger, I used to think that my favorite shirt was purple. It was a fact to me, no questions asked. My eyes saw the world in a way in which I thought it was true. When I started school, things changed. We started to learn about colors, and I learned that I was colorblind. Colorblindness is a condition where a deficiency in one of the three types of cone cells in your eyes causes your eyes to see differently than the majority of people. This can be an issue for me when I drive, choose an outfit, or even when I play video games. Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Jean-Pierre, wait a minute, I can't tell. Wait a minute, stop the game. No, I can't tell which one's me. No, I'm about to die. Oh my God. The point is that this condition affects me in my daily life. I've had to live with it for as long as I can remember. To better understand this issue, we can analyze this from a TOK perspective. We can understand this issue with a few questions. Knowledge questions. First, to what extent is sense perception a reliable way of knowing? Second, to what extent does language determine someone's perception? And third, to what extent does knowledge depend on perception? First, let's understand perception. Perception is made up of two different ideas that relate together: sensation and interpretation. Sensation is the detection of physical energy from the environment, which our bodies then transduce into chemical and electrical signals, while interpretation is the organization and understanding of those signals that ultimately leads to our perception of something. The sensations experienced by me and you may be the same, but because of my colorblindness, my interpretation of information causes me to see a different picture than the world around me. In order to understand the correlation between perception and reality, we can look at three different theories of reality that explain perception. This will help us understand the connection between knowledge and perception. Common sense realism states that the world is more or less as we perceive it to be. This theory can be limited relative to my personal situation because I've always been told that my perception is wrong, which leads me to conclude that what I see is not truly the world that I live in. Scientific realism says that the real world is not the world as it appears to be in our senses, but it is as described by science with a true definition of the world we live in. This could explain my perception as it takes into account the problems with my form of knowledge, but this theory is very limited and it takes away from the idea that I actually see the world that I live in. Phenomenalism states that physical objects are bundles of sense data that cannot be said to exist themselves independently of our experience. This theory could also explain my perception, as everything I see is just based on my experience of seeing it. This theory, however, is also limited by the idea that things in the world may happen even if I don't directly perceive it. With my personal experience, my mind believes more so in scientific realism than the other two theories because it can describe my colorblindness the best. My interpretation of the true world is limited to not see the scientific definition of what the world really is. This is because of the medical issue with my eyes. In connecting knowledge with perception, we can look at the idea of empiricism in describing how people attain knowledge from their perception. Empiricism claims that all knowledge must ultimately be based on our sense perception. Perhaps my knowledge of the world is limited because of my problems with seeing color. But all of us have problems with our vision alone. It's inherently human to have problems with our vision that can relate to different problems with perceptual illusions that affect our interpretation. Other things can also affect our perception. This includes our other ways of knowing. According to the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, the language you speak influences the way you see the world around you. In the Russian language, there are two different words describing the word that we call blue in English. This, according to the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, gives people who speak Russian an advantage over seeing blue than people who speak other languages. Perhaps I should learn Russian to see blue better. The connection between perception and knowledge is a difficult one to understand because so many ideas exist in describing it. It's hard to find one factor that relates the two ideas together perfectly. One could think of knowledge from perception as a flawed way of knowing. There is a bidirectional relationship between our sensory perception and the knowledge we acquire. Our sensory perception limits our acquisition of knowledge, the same way it enhances it. Sensory perception is a gateway to the other ways of knowing. It expands the way we see the world to make assumptions and develop knowledge, but it's not always reliable. No matter who you are, no matter how good your vision, no one can truly trust their perception in developing knowledge. Not even someone with perfect vision, and especially not me.